Okay, so yesterday, Andale asked me a question, or was talking. We were talking about a verse that we were looking at phrasing in John 13:17, and so it dealt with two conditional clauses. In let's see. So John 13:17.
Mhm.
If you know these things, you are blessed if you do these things.
Mm.
And Andale was bringing up the fact that in the NIV it uses the word now. I am not referring to all of you. I know. Let's see. Now, now that you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them. So why does the NIV? What do they have in mind when they say now that you know these things rather than if you know these things? So I mentioned in class that they're taking away the force of the conditional clause
Mhm.
if and just making it into a statement. Sometimes first class conditional clauses are translated since rather than if. Uh, because they're taking it as a done deal. Wallace says you lose the conditional force if you translate it since rather than if. So since would be the equivalent of now. So you lose a conditional force if you translate it since rather than if. Because there's a reason that the author is writing if rather than since or now that. So I'm not in agreement with the NIV at that juncture. I think it should say if. There are conditional clauses should generally be translated if rather than now or since. So so is that sufficient?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was helpful. I appreciate
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. You're welcome. Well, we're going to continue looking at exegetical clausal layouts and phrasing, all that's involved in that. The first thing I want us to look at is it's in the module number or module in week. Let's see, week 3. Chart adverbial particles handout. So it's in the module for week 2, the module for week 2, and the last thing on the list is chart adverb particles handout. So it should be a chart. Looks kind of like this. Yours might have more lines on it than that one. But the chart has grammatical categories, question answered, Greek word or construction. Those are the key things. And then I originally did this for college students so that weren't taking Greek. So I transliterated Greek words and include the English words that the Greek word translates. Anyway, we're looking at adverbial markers when we're doing phrasing or structural clausal layouts. So the first grammatical category on this handout is cause. So yesterday I said, can you come up with 7 ways to express cause in Greek? So looking at this handout, the first grammatical category, cause, answers the question why, and it states the ground, cause, or reason for the action described by the main verb. So you're modifying the main verb with a way to express cause, answering the question why. So the Greek words are constructs that talk about cause include hati, of course, that would be one of the major ones. So hati expresses cause, doesn't express purpose, it expresses cause. It can also express content, but when it expresses content, it's not adverbial. So we're not so concerned with that. So you could have a substantival hati clause. He said that Greek was his favorite class. That Greek was his favorite class could be a hati clause, but it's not adverbial. So when we phrase, we're not going to indent that or color it red. It'll be, on a line, but it will be acting as a noun. It will be acting substantively rather than as an adverbially. So hati. Second one is gar. I think we missed that yesterday. Gar can mean for or because. So it can be an explanatory gar, giving a further explanation of what the author's been talking about, or it can be a causal gar, giving the ground cause or reason for the verbal action. So hati and gar. A third way is dia plus the accusative. Dia plus the accusative means on account of or because of. So it's causal. So hati, gar, dia plus the accusative. A third way of expressing cause in Greek is a simple participle. So when you run across a participle, you can ask yourself, is this expressing cause or purpose or result or means? There are a variety of uses of the participle. Adverbial participles have a variety of uses, and you have to test each one to see which best fits the context. So hati, gar, dia plus the accusative participle, and then you have diata plus the infinitive. So dia plus the neuter article ta plus the infinitive, that construction can express cause. And not on the sheet, but I mentioned yesterday that ek, the preposition ek, can be causal. If you have or you consult Wallace's grammar, he will go through all the prepositions and give the range of meaning of the different prepositions. You could also gain this from Budag. Bauer, Danker, Art, and Gingrich would list cause for hati, gar, dia plus accusative, and so on. So ek is another way to express cause. And there are others. You suspect, like if you had n, could that ever express cause? It usually doesn't, but because it occurs 2,000 so-and-so times in the New Testament, probably a couple of those might be cause. So if you forget all else, write a participle down, and you're most likely to be right, or get it right on the exam anyway. So hati, gar, dia plus the accusative participle, diata plus the infinitive, and ek. So those are different.
Question.
Yes.
Can a simple infinitive also be causal?
I think on a rare occasion it can be. It's more likely to be purpose.
Oh, okay.
Purpose is far more likely than cause, but I think on a rare occasion it can be causal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the second adverbial marker expresses means, agency, or instrument. Means instrument is generally not personal, and agency is generally personal, but there's overlap. So if it can sometimes various constructions and Greek words can express means or agency or instrument. It answers the question how, stating the means, by what means or agency, personal or impersonal, the action of the main verb will occur. And there are a number of ways to express means or agency or instrument. The first one would be N plus the dative. N followed by a dative case noun can mean by. N doesn't always mean in, often it means by. That's a frequent use of N plus the dative. Or a simple dative can express means, agency, or instrument as well. A way to express personal or ultimate agency is hupa plus the genitive. Hupa plus the genitive. Hupa plus the accusative, you're under, but hupa plus the genitive, it means by, and it's ultimate or personal agency. Dia plus the genitive can express intermediate agency, usually translated through or with or by, but through generally. So dia plus the genitive can express intermediate agency. It can also, the genitive of personal agency or impersonal means. So the genitive by itself can express means through or dia plus genitive. And a simple participle can express means, agency, instrument, or ento plus the infinitive. That construction can express contemporaneous time, but it also can express means, instrument, or agency. So N plus the dative, simple dative, hupa plus the genitive, dia plus the genitive, genitive of personal agency, participle, infinitive, simple infinitive, and ento plus the infinitive. So there you go, means, agency, or instrument. Another adverbial markers would express purpose. So the simple infinitive can express purpose. The simple participle can express purpose. Hina plus the subjunctive very often expresses purpose. Purpose hina clauses. Two, the genitive article, genitive singular article to plus the infinitive can express purpose. Ace ta plus the infinitive can express purpose. Ace can mean into, but ace can also mean unto a goal, unto a purpose. So I think when I see ace ta, I think unto. It's expressing purpose. Hapos plus the subjunctive, just like hina plus the subjunctive, can express purpose. Sometimes the more sophisticated authors, like the author of the book of Hebrews, will use hapos rather than hina, whereas maybe Paul, the vast majority of times, will use, instead of hina, would rarely use hapos, but sometimes use hapos as well. Pros ta plus the infinitive can also express purpose. Pros means to, toward, or with, toward a goal, toward a purpose, toward an aim. So pros can express purpose. Pros by itself, or pros ta plus the infinitive. Then there are ways to express negative purpose, which is translated as like 300 years ago, lest. The best translation for negative purpose is lest, but it's kind of antiquated. Lest you understand what I'm saying.
You're calling me antiquated, Dr. Nelson? I use that all the time.
Well, you almost have to. Otherwise, you have to use 5 or 6 words.
It's very convenient.
So anyway. So mepata, mepu, mepos, varieties of ways to express negative purpose. Okay, a fourth grammatical category is result. What's the result? This states the actual result of the action of the main verb. You can think of the disciples in a storm on the sea, and or rather fishing. The disciples fishing on the sea, and they pull up their nets. Their nets are full of fish, so much that the nets begin to tear apart. Now that wasn't their purpose. Was not to destroy their nets. The purpose was to catch a lot of fish, but not to destroy their nets. That was the result. That's the actual result of what happened. So the way I look at it is result is the intended purpose, the intended result, or the intended purpose, and purpose is purpose's intended result is what actually happened. Hosta is the main word associated with result, with the result that. Hosta. You can also have hosta plus the infinitive to express result. A simple infinitive can express result. It's an exegetical choice often. When you see an infinitive, does it express purpose or does it express result? Does it express purpose or does it express result? Usually, if you have a simple infinitive or simple participle, they express purpose, not result. Sometimes they will express result. Students see result more than maybe they should. So if you're to guess, is it purpose or result? It's probably purpose. Scholars call this subfinal and final. I think final is purpose and subfinal is result, but those terms don't mean a lot to us anyway. So it's going to be purpose or result. Yeah, those darn cats. Cat wants to take Greek too, but so hosta plus the infinitive, hosta, simple infinitive, simple participle, hina plus the subjunctive, much less frequent than purpose, and to plus the infinitive, much less frequent than purpose. So we have cause, means, purpose, result. The fifth adverbial category is manner. It expresses how or the manner in which the action of the controlling verb is carried out, but it doesn't give the agent by which the action is accomplished. It's often translated by an ly word. Quickly. Do this quickly. That would be the manner. Or they went to town joyfully. That's the manner in which they went to town. A simple dative can express manner. A simple accusative can express manner. Ento plus the infinitive, besides expressing contemporaneous time and means, can express manner. So ento plus the infinitive, the accusative of manner, the dative of manner. And often it's hard to tell between means and manner. They're pretty close. So some grammarians just call it means/manner. A sixth category for adverbial markers is time or temporal. It could be past time, current time, future time. It answers the question when, stating the time of the action described by the main verb. And there's a whole bunch of ways to express time in Greek. A present participle, while, during. A present participle can express time, generally contemporaneous time, while. Aorist participle can express time, often after. So time after. So time during is often a present participle. Time after is often an aorist participle. Ento plus the infinitive expresses contemporaneous time, while. Metata plus the infinitive expresses time after. You translated after. Pra plus the genitive article, pra tu plus the infinitive expresses time before, translated before. So you have while, after, before, ento plus the infinitive, metata plus the infinitive, pra tu plus the infinitive. You can have a simple genitive. Genitive expresses the kind of time. Dative expresses the point of time. He started class promptly at 8 o'clock. That's point of time. Accusative is extent of time. The class seemed to go on for hours. So extent of time, point of time. Kind of time is time within which, or time during. That's genitive of time. So you have genitive of time, dative of time, accusative of time. And then you can have the word hata, which means when, or hatan is hata plus on, means hatan, whenever. So hatan, whenever, hata, when, meta plus the accusative, after, pantata, always, frequency, I guess, always. Hos can mean when or while. Pate can mean once or formerly. Heos can mean until. Akri is another way to say until. And I'm sure there are other ways to express time as well, but those are some of the main ways to express time. So you have temporal function in Greek as well. Number seventh type of adverbial marker is condition. You have first class, second class, third class conditions. If then, so you have the protasis, the apodosis, if then clauses. There's no question. The question would be what condition. So there's really no question. It just states the condition fulfilled by the main clause. So first class condition is A plus the indicative verb. You have A plus the indicative verb in the protasis. You have an indicative verb in the apodosis. First class condition is assuming this to be true for the sake of argument, and this will follow from that. So assuming something is true for the sake of argument is the first class condition. Second class condition is contrary to fact. A plus the indicative, past tense in the protasis and past tense indicative verb in the apodosis, plus on in the apodosis. Second class condition is assuming this to be false for the sake of argument. So second class condition. If you listen to Moses, but you didn't listen to Moses, then you would listen to me, but you're not listening to me. So second class condition, contrary to fact. Third class condition is on plus the subjunctive. Third class condition is if this part of the clause is true, and it may be true, may not be true, then this will follow. So it's not assuming it to be true for the sake of argument. It's saying this might be true, might not be true, but if it is true, then this will follow from it. And sometimes third-class conditions are present general, a general situation in the present. So three conditionals, first class, second class, third class. Fourth class would be with the optative verb, and there are no complete examples of fourth class conditions. And that'd be very rare to run into it, but it has the optative, uses the optative verb. The eighth kind of adverbial marker is concession, although, even though, you can have a simple participle, a simple infinitive, you can have a kai, or eon kai can be translated although. So simple participle, simple infinitive, a kai, eon kai. And even though this handout goes beyond it a little bit, it's possible that location or place could be seen as an adverbial marker, answering the question where. Typically, when I do exegetical clausal layouts, I don't include location, place as an adverbial marker. But there are times that maybe it should be considered that way. So for now, we'll consider it to be a way to express place, location, where. So you could have a dative, a place, dative, a sphere, n plus the dative, a genitive of place, hapu can mean where, who can mean where. So there are different ways to express where, location, place in Greek. Is it an actual place? Is it a figurative place? Anyway, dative of place, dative of sphere, n plus the dative, genitive of place, hapu or who are different ways to express where. The rest of the things on the sheet, contrast, comparison, inference, emphasis, content, are not to be adverbial markers, not to be colored red. Sometimes students get crazy. They take this handout, and all over the place they're including Allah, de, expressing an adversative, a contrastive adversative conjunction, de, but de is not, generally speaking, adverbial. So Allah, de, but, plain, however, not adverbial. Comparison, kathos, just as, even as, hos, as, hosper, as, hutos, in this manner, thus. A means or, a disjunctive conjunction, but they're not adverbial. For inference, expressing a logical deduction or conclusion from a previous statement, you have un, therefore, diatuta, for this reason, or therefore, ara, so then, therefore, dia with an omicron, therefore. Hosta can mean therefore or for this reason, but usually it expresses result. For emphasis, you could have u may plus the aorist subjunctive. Never, never, ever, ever, by no means. Nay, truly, nigh, yes, ge, indeed, day, indeed. Different ways to emphasize in Greek. And content are, generally speaking, hati and hina. Hati, besides meaning because, can mean that. Hina, besides meaning in order that, can mean that. So you can have a substantival hati clause functioning as an object or an apposition or an indirect discourse after verbs of saying, thinking, perception, or in direct discourse as quote marks. One hati can stand for quote marks. Hina, you can have an epexegetical or substantival hina clause functioning as the subject of a sentence or the object of a sentence, or an apposition, or in direct discourse, or an indirect discourse. So content, emphasis, inference, comparison, contrast are not adverbial markers. But they're important in Greek. That doesn't mean they're not important. They're just not adverbial markers. And we're aiming to find and to color red adverbial markers. So any questions or comments on that? This should be a helpful handout for you as you do phrasing. So any questions, comments? Manner, quickly, let's go quickly.
Just a quick question. When we let's say means with n plus dative, should we highlight dative verb also, or just n?
That is an excellent question. I've had students do it both ways, just to be consistent. But I would do them together. I do n plus the dative and color them both red.
Okay. Okay.
So that's probably a good way to do it. Very good observation question.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, we will move on from there. In the modules, I think it's under, let's see. It's in the course files, I think. In course files, week 1, course files. One of them is a checklist for phrasing and exegetical outlining, I believe. In any case, I'm going to go through the steps of phrasing and the steps of exegetical outlining. I'll go over these many times, but this, you have to start. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So this will be step number 1, and then we'll do step number 2, and so on and so forth. So have you found a checklist for phrasing and exegetical outlining in the slide? See that? Okay, so your exegetical clausal layout or phrasing. 1, pick a paragraph to exegete. The unit of thought in Greek is a paragraph. In exegesis, you need to work with paragraphs, not just verses on their own or words on their own, but paragraphs. So pick a paragraph to exegete. Translate the paragraph into English. If you want to just work all in Greek, that's fine, great, more power to you. But probably most of us need to use Greek and English. And since you're in this class, you're going to use a lot of Greek. But translate the paragraph into English. List all independent and dependent clauses. Find the independent clauses. Find the dependent clauses. Separate the independent clauses and the dependent clauses. So you'll have here's an independent clause, a dependent clause, a dependent clause, a dependent clause, an independent clause, and so on. 4, identify and record all adverbial markers. So find the adverbial markers, the ways to express purpose, cause, means. Find those. So identify the adverbial markers. Identify the main clauses, the main verbs as well. The adverbial markers will generally occur near the beginning of a dependent clause. They will generally be adverbial participles, adverbial conjunctions like hati or hina, or adverbial infinitives. The adverbial markers will be temporal, causal, purpose, means, manner, result, condition, concession, and it could be local or place, answering the question where. They'll generally answer the questions when, why, how, what result, where, sometimes. Condition and concession don't answer a question, but condition is if, concession is although. Double underline all main verbs, single underline all other verbs, participles, or infinitives. Color all adverbial markers red. Now, color all non-adverbial conjunctions blue and all non-adverbial prepositions green. So you could have dia, for example. You have dia by itself, you color that green, but dia plus the genitive would be colored red because it expresses intermediate agency. So red adverbial markers trump blue conjunctions and green prepositions. Prepositions and conjunctions are important. Kai is important. Gar is important. So color all non-adverbial conjunctions blue, non-adverbial prepositions green. But if it's an adverbial, color it red. So if you have a choice between coloring it green or red, if it's adverbial, color it red. Line up the adverbial markers and their clauses, the dependent clauses underneath the verb or verbal that they modify. They might modify a verb, they might modify a participle, they might modify an infinitive. Line them up underneath the verb or verbal they modify, and write the question, how, why, when, and the grammatical category, instrument, cause, purpose. So write the question and grammatical category of the adverbial marker after the clause in which it occurs. So those are the 9 steps or 10 steps of phrasing. And from phrasing, we will go to exegetical outlining. And we'll go over exegetical outlining many times, but let me point out this is a textbook for the class, right? Yeah. The section on sentence diagramming, clausal layouts, and exegetical outlining goes on and on and on. So I would recommend reading it and reading it again and reading it again. I'm not so concerned with sentence diagramming with all the lines and brackets and that kind of thing. That's not ultimately, that's not the most helpful thing in the world. Clausal layouts is what we're doing at first, and that will lead to exegetical outlining. So there's, there's at least 40 pages of this on those things. So if you get confused, look at the book. If you're not confused, look at the book. Okay, so exegetical outlining comes from your phrasing. So you phrase and then you come up with an exegetical outline. So what are we going to do? How do you do the exegetical outline? This is just the first introduction to this. So if it's confusing or it's hard to understand, don't worry about it, because eventually you'll do exegetical outlining on Philippians 1, 3 through 11, and Colossians 1, 15 to 20, and you'll do a great job. So what do you do in exegetical outlining? You write out a subject complement statement in full sentence form for each main clause with main verb, and each adverbial dependent clause with an adverbial marker. The subject complement sentence will state a grammatical category. It will be like this. The purpose of blank is blank. And you'll use a be verb like is or was or be to tie together the subject and the complement. The subject is what the author is talking about in the sentence. The complement is what the author is saying about what he's talking about. The subject is adverbial, purpose, cause, reason, means, time, etc. So subject could be the purpose the Gentiles were joined was blank. So you have the grammatical category purpose. You have the be verb was. The purpose the Gentiles were joined was. And then you'll have something like in order that. So you have some word expressing purpose. The purpose, well, you have it at the start, don't you? The purpose the Gentiles were joined was in order to. So you'll have the in order to expressing purpose. Or the means by which death is abolished is by. So at the end you'll have in order to, by, those kinds of things. If you have a passage of 6 verses, typically you'll have 12 subject complement sentences. So that's step 1. Step 2, you group your statements into logical groupings. 3, you'll construct second-tier statements from each of the groupings, 1 statement for each group. 12 subject complement sentences might yield 4 second-tier statements. The second-tier statement contains the essence of the subject complement statements used to form it, but you're getting more concentrated as you work through the process. You'll have a long statement and then a shorter statement and so on. Then you group your second-tier statements into 3 groupings and form third-tier statements from your second-tier statements. Your third-tier statements become your main outline points. Your second-tier statements become your secondary points, A, B, C, but you have to have a point A and a point B to proceed to a second level in your outline, not just point A. 7, your original subject complement statements become your points 1, 2, 3. You tweak your outline for clarity, and you list the adverbial markers and main verbs in the left margin of your outline, typically next to points 1, 2, or 3. So I realize that will be confusing. When you're confused and the professor's not available, go to your textbook and read what he says about exegetical outlining. And you'll learn about candy and fruit as well, because he teaches outline. He says, apples are nutritious. Oranges are nutritious, point 1, point 2. Peanuts are nutritious. And then candy is not nutritious. Cheetos are not nutritious. Anyway, that's the fun part of that chapter.
Oh, yes, they are. Cheetos are very nutritious.
So, anyway. So we're in week 2. Oh, we can look at the proficiency exam a little bit again. At least part of it. Okay, what are 5 ways to express cause in Greek?
Hati,
Yes,
gar,
good. Gar, hati gar.
dia plus accusative,
Yeah, dia plus accusative on account of.
There 2 plus infinitive.
Oh, dia.
Yeah,
There 2 plus infinitive.
That's okay. Cause. Yeah, diata plus the infinitive. Yes, that's right.
Mhm.
It's not 2, it's ta.
Ta. Simple infinitive.
Simple infinitive. Yes.
participle.
Participle. Yes, very good. The universal answer.
And gar as well, right? Gar.
Gar, hati gar, dia plus the accusative, diata plus the infinitive.
ek,
Ek. Yeah, I think we've got at least 5. What question is answered by cause?
why,
Why? Why? Because. What are 5 ways to express purpose in Greek?
And plus the subjunctive.
Yes, very good. Purpose in a clause, in a plus the subjunctive.
Participle.
Participle, good.
infinitive,
Infinitive, yes.
Esta
Prosta.
plus the infinitive and prosta plus the infinitive.
Prosta plus the infinitive, asta plus the infinitive, and Andale said
The same thing. Prosta plus infinitive.
prosta plus the infinitive. Good. So simple infinitive, prosta plus the infinitive, asta plus the infinitive, simple infinitive, participle.
2 plus the infinitive.
Yes, 2, tau, omicron, upsilon plus the infinitive. Yeah, 2 plus the infinitive.
Sometimes oppose.
Hopos. Yeah, hopos plus the subjunctive.
Professor, just a quick question. Let's say prosta. There are more. They use that in together just to show the purpose, or the ta. What is the function? Ta there. I guess that's a plus infinitive.
Yeah, why do you need ta? That's we learn how languages operate by observation. This is one of the ways the Greeks use to express
The Greek mother. That's how they. Okay, so this is just ta is just some word there.
Yeah, it's a construction. This construction
Okay.
expresses purpose. Ace ta plus the, so that's just the way they did it. They took a neuter generally speaking, a neuter singular article. So you have the preposition, the neuter singular article, and then and then the infinitive, or yeah, then the infinitive. It's just another way that they.
Okay.
So usually it's stylistic variation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you'll use a simple infinitive. Sometimes it'll be ace ta plus the infinitive.
So we cannot say ta is to use for the to connect with the infinitive rather than it's just a constructive usage of ta.
Yeah, it has to be in that.
Yeah. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's that the formula by itself expresses.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, what question is answered by purpose?
Why?
Why?
Why? Yes, why? What Greek word is often associated with result?
Hosta.
Hosta. Yeah. What kind of construction with the infinitive expresses result?
Hosta plus
Yeah, hosta plus the infinitive. So there it's just hosta plus the infinitive, not hosta ta or hosta tu, or that's just the way that they did it.
Mm.
That makes languages a challenge. Other languages a challenge for us. What are 5 ways to express means or instrument or agency in Greek?
And
Participle.
Okay, participle.
genitive.
Genitive. Okay. Yeah. Genitive noun.
There plus the genitive.
Say that again.
There plus the genitive.
Yeah, dia plus the genitive. Yes, through.
In plus the dative, or just
And
a
plus the
simple
dative.
dative.
Simple dative.
Upper plus the genitive.
Upa plus the genitive. Yes.
Enter plus infinity.
Yeah, ento plus the infinitive. Yeah, very good.
That was everything.
You say participle, probably.
Genitive or personal agency. I don't know if that counts.
Isn't participle always the first answer to every question?
Yeah. You want to get at least one right, just write down participle for each one. Got a few points. What question is answered by means, agency, instrument?
How?
How? Yes. What are the 2 main uses of gar?
contrast
Content.
and purpose,
No.
cause.
Cause. Yeah, cause is one. The other is explanatory.
Mm.
Gar can add an explanation to what has been going on or what has been said. So the explanatory gar, or it could be causal. So there's a range from the causal to the explanatory. Actually, hati has a range too. It's causal, but sometimes it can be explanatory. And it can be substantival as well. What's an insight that you have in using biblical Greek that you either cannot see in English or cannot see as well in English? What are 5 insights that you have to the scripture in using biblical Greek that you either cannot see or cannot see as well in English? What are the benefits of knowing Greek, using Greek?
Aspect.
Okay, verbal aspect. Tell me about verbal aspect.
Let you. It lets you know if there is a long-lasting effect.
Okay, so it could talk about a completed action with a present effect. In the context, it would tell you whether it's long-lasting or not, but it's a completed action with a present effect. If it's perfect or pluperfect.
Mhm.
Pretty good.
Deeper meaning of words.
Yes. So you do word studies and you get the deeper meaning, or yeah, the actual meaning of things. Very good.
The owner, the subject of the actions is clearer. Who is
Okay.
doing what?
Yeah. Okay. Probably all parts of speech are clearer in Greek than just the English. Of course, from the NIV, you learn that if means now.
Mhm.
So verbal aspect, lexical studies. Okay, so you have the imperfective aspect, complete action with the present effect. Well, no, from the old days, I call it perfective aspect. Tell me about the present tense in Greek. Present tense means present time.
Continual.
Continuous.
Okay, continuous. Could be a historical present, then it would be past time and not present time.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have the continuous aspect, the perfect aspect.
Emphasis.
Emphasis, yes. Ume plus the aorist subjunctive. Never, ever, ever. Or some words are just emphatic on their own. Why? Why? Is me. Whoa. So one more insight that you have in using biblical Greek.
The flow of thought or argumentation of the author.
Yes, very good. Flow of thought, argumentation that we'll see in phrasing and exegetical clausal layouts. Very good. Well done. I'll reward you with a break. So let's take a break and come back in 8 minutes or so.
Sounds good. Hey, Dave, are you on by any chance?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, I see the red record thing up in the top left, but it's not counting down. Is that a problem? Or counting up?
It should be counting up.
Yeah, I don't see it doing that. I don't know if it's just me or
You guys,
I know we.
do you guys see the number
Mine
count?
is.
Okay,
Yeah, mine
okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember
I
we
was gonna
had an
say, I
issue
see it
last
counting up.
semester. Okay. Sounds good. I can see the red record button, but I don't see it.
You just don't see the
counting.
time clicking on.
Nope.
Yeah.
But as long as you do, you get to download it for us or
There you
upload
go.
it. So,
That's the important part. That way you guys got this to be able to go back and look at it if you need to reference.
Yahoy, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I went back and tried to look at yesterday's introduction to who you are, and I didn't see it. I was late to class on Tuesday. Where are you from? Where are you at?
I'm in Houston now.
Houston. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a campus pastor, minister for church planting in Houston, from Houston Chinese Church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And after having lived down there, I can tell you that city needs a whole lot of planting.
Why? I like here.
Oh, I'm just saying the city itself needs a whole lot of churches planted in it.
Yeah. Well, they want to saturate it. Houston.
Yeah. Were you in Kansas City before Houston?
No, never been to Kansas City before. I moved around. Yeah, I'm a chemical engineer. I'm trained as a chemical engineer. I just kind of quitted my professional world in 2017, only recently. So I'm very new to the ministry world.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I lived in Dallas for several years, and I'm from Wisconsin, so Dallas was like hot as hell.
Oh, I thought you were saying paradigm. Paradigm.
No.
But they'd always the natives to Dallas would always say, if you don't like Dallas, you'd hate Houston.
There's no hot like Houston. No hot at all like Houston. It gets real hot here, but you know it's 6% humidity here, so I don't know. I'll take that.
Wow. That's dry.
When it's real hot, you know, it dries the air out. But
See, and where I stayed was halfway between where you are in El Paso and halfway in Houston. At Fort Hood, we had the heat and the humidity.
yeah.
It was nothing for us to have 98, 99 degrees and still have 48 and 50% humidity.
Yeah. And in San Antonio, you know, where I grew up, you know, a pretty dry day was 50% humidity. And all sorts of, and that's what when we have our monsoon, they call it a monsoon during August and September. That's as high, about as high as it gets. It's 50 or 60%, other than when it's actually raining. So dry as a bone.
Yeah, that's 60% is pretty good. If Houston is lower than 95% is good. It's always 100%.
Seems like it floods at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, the thing I didn't like about Houston was it could be in July. You could walk out your door and your car's only parked about 10 feet from your door, and by the time you got in the car, you were already soaking wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no chance to dry.
When you study Texas history and U.S. history, not very many people like Sam Houston, and I think that's probably maybe a connection there with naming the place after him.
Oh, with the Houston.
Yeah.
But when people from Houston want to suffer for Jesus, they actually go to Beaumont, people. So you got to remember, Houston isn't as bad as it gets now.
Yeah.
Beaumont's rough.
Well, we're all back. Let me just ask you a couple questions. What English translation do you think is the best, and why? Because that's part of exegesis, is comparing different English translations and comparing them with the Greek. I often had, or a couple times had fun in classes by the students would argue for which was the best translation. So what English translation or Nigerian translation do you think is the best, and why?
Well, I personally like NRSV.
Well, okay. New Revised Standard Version.
Yeah.
And why do you like the NRSV?
When I read it, I just feel like more connected to it. I think the translation is more word by word in the order. But also I like the language.
Okay, yeah. The King James line, or Tyndale line of translations, Tyndale, King James, American Standard Version, English Revised Version, Revised Standard Version, and ESV and New Revised Standard Version. Yeah, so it's good English and good Greek. That's what Spurgeon said about when the revised version came in England. He said, "Good Greek, bad English." Okay, so thanks for sharing. So, what's your favorite translation and why? If you say the message, you fail the class.
Okay.
As Eugene Peterson writes. Sorry. Chuck Swindoll was famous for saying that. There for a number of years, every message he'd use a Eugene Peterson illustration. So, it's probably just familiarity, but I've used the NASB, the American Standard. Does a pretty good job of direct equivalency, you know, and I'll use whatever is in my hand, though. I mean, I have a number of translations.
Well, that's the key thing, is to use it.
Yeah, right. And you know, when I'm in the New Testament, you do compare. You know, I've compared. Dave, you mind getting that motorcycle there?
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's picking up pretty high in my headphones here. You know, but I'll cross check with the TR. You know, in addition to that, you know, New King James Version or whatever.
Sure.
So, as far as English goes.
Thanks. Others, what's your favorite translation and why?
Did you say Andele?
Yes, Andale.
Oh, that is really a difficult one. I grew up using the NIV. My seminary in Nigeria, the Bible college I went to, they use NIV, and so however, I later on became a little bit not so much interested in the NIV, especially when I saw the translation. Is it the 2011 translation, the one that they had crisis about? You know, the translation that they later withdraw. Right now, I try to use my Greek and Hebrew alongside the different versions and see what is happening. So I'm actually undecided as to what is my favorite Bible translation right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's the impressive that's the impressive answer. I use the Greek.
I try to. Yeah.
Okay, Frank. Frank,
yeah.
what's your favorite translation and why?
I guess I use the NIV more often, not the 2011, but the older, as well as the NRSV. I don't know. I can't say I have a favorite yet, but I would say that's what I mostly use. So
why do you mostly use is the new RSV and what was the other one?
NIV.
The NIV. So why do you use those?
Well, especially since like using it for this class, I just felt like whenever I would kind of reference the Greek with the NIV, it would be very, very close from what I found. So that's why I appreciate it the most. You know, and I think I've just used it because I wasn't a fan of King James being younger because I just didn't understand. I'm like, what are they talking about? But yeah, I just started using NIV when I was younger, and like I said, I just feel like it translates the Greek pretty well.
Okay.
From what I'm saying, I'm no specialist or anything, no expert.
So did everybody share?
No, I didn't yet. I'll give a kind of a long answer. I really like the NASB for study. It seems like I reference it often. I look at it often in study. But to me, to read it, it seems kind of clunky and cumbersome. So I don't really enjoy like reading that, and I don't actually preach out of it. I've been reading a lot more recently from the ESV, and I really like the ESV because I feel like it's a little bit more readable to an American audience. And I've got a lot of people in my church that are starting to carry the ESV, but neither of those are actually my preferred translation. I actually prefer the New King James, and part of that is because I grew up on it. I'm used to that, you know, that language. I'm used to hearing it that way. And in Utah, I actually use the New King James and the King James in preaching and teaching because the Mormons, the LDS, that's the only Bible that they will have or look at. And so we use that a lot in our communication with them. They have it in their house, and it's kind of the only thing they see. So I actually use the King James and the New King James. So I guess those are my preferred. But I always had to clarify that when I say that I prefer those, because people kind of look at you like you're a little bit weird. But I really do like the New King James. If that would be my preferred.
Are you saying that there's Christian virtue signaling on your translation choices?
Yeah. So when they come, they'll have a King James Bible with them, and of course it also has a Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants and Scripture. But yes, like for our kids club, for example, we do memorization out of the King James Version, and we have several Mormon families that bring their kids to our we do a similar to Awana scripture memory program. And so, yes, we do use that. And it's funny, I found a bunch of other Utah churches that do the same thing and for the same reason.
When I was saved in 1973, I got a free Living Bible from the Billy Graham Association or whatever, read through that. And then the NIV New Testament had just come out. So I read through the whole NIV, and a number of students in Campus Crusade for Christ were using New American Standard. So I compared the NIV with the New American Standard. I found they were saying basically the same thing, but the NIV was saying it in a more understandable way at the time. Of course, I use the Greek, but the two versions that I go to are the Net Bible and ESV. I like ESV as a conservative version of the RSV. And the RSV was done very expertly. So it was interesting to hear that a few of you like the new RSV. I like the ESV over the new RSV because it's more conservative, I guess. And the Net Bible brings out the meaning of the Greek a little bit more. I also, for a time, the ISV, International Standard Version, claims to be the one that's closest to the Greek, but it has some outstanding translations in it. So it's the ISV, International Standard Version. You won't necessarily see it in your local bookstore, although I found it in a Christian bookstore. And nobody mentioned the Holman Christian Standard Bible, so I don't know if you've used that or not. I find some of their textual decisions as to what's the correct text to be wrong. In the Christian, it was the Holman Christian Standard Bible, now it's the Christian Standard Bible. So I don't know what's going on with that, but.
The only criticism I've ever heard of it was actually the Study Bible was trying to make an original language argument from the Vulgate. And one of their notes, I was like, okay, that's a pretty big goof. Not a translation per se, but they were trying to make a textual argument based on the Vulgate. Whatever, you know.
Is the Holman the one that you can write in and you can make comments on, and they're constantly revising? Is that the Holman Christian Standard?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a Southern Baptist translation.
Yeah.
I think they've dropped Holman now, isn't it? Just the CSB.
Yeah.
I had a copy of the Holman Bible. I tried using it. It didn't sound. It sounded kind of too different for me, so I wasn't really comfortable with it. So I just stopped using it.
Let me ask you one other question. Do you have a intermediate or advanced Greek grammar? Do you own? And if so, which one do you have? Or which ones do you have?
I have Wallace's.
I have Wallace's. There are two of them. The advanced one and the other one.
You have the fat Wallace and the thin Wallace.
I never even heard of the thin Wallace. Is there like a little
Yeah, some professors were saying that that Wallace was too big, too unwieldy to use. So Wallace revised or came out with a thinner edition. Doesn't
Okay.
have as much explanation, just has the basic categories.
That one there.
Yeah, the
So
basics.
is it the first one that he did?
Yeah, there's
The big one?
the first one he did was the thick one,
And then this one?
but there were complaints about it, so he did an abridged.
Okay.
You know, just like there's Kittle and Little Kittle
Yes.
or Kittle Bits or whatever. I don't like Little Kittle, but I like the big Wallace. So anybody own something besides Wallace? It's like an intermediate grammar or advanced grammar.
I think I do, but I'm not in my office at the moment. I forget which one it is.
There's one by Young, which is a pretty good one. There's a more recent one by Plummer, Kostenberger, and okay.
Yeah, this is helpful because I'm taking notes for everybody's books that you're naming.
Okay. Yeah, get buy Wallace. Buy the big one.
And the small one.
I'm kind of surprised Wallace conceded and came out with anything smaller. I hadn't even heard that. Wow.
Well, my predecessor, Dr. Decker, he's gone to be with the Lord, but he was the Greek professor at Calvary, and he attacked Wallace's grammar because it was too thick to be useful to students. So I imagine he wasn't the only one that criticized Wallace for being too big. But Wallace has like a cheat sheet and a summary of his grammar. So you got the whole thing, you have a summary of cheat sheets. I don't know. I always use the big one. Very good.
Yeah. But the big one is more detailed. It's very helpful if you are doing like detailed study on a word or some grammatical categories.
Yeah. Certainly is.
Thank you. This is helpful.
And before Wallace, there was Dana and Manti was the intermediate grammar that was used in conservative schools, but it was pretty hard to understand, at least from my viewpoint. Wallace is like 1,000% improvement over Dana and Manti. So, and some students have owned the thick A.T. Robertson grammar. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's a heavyweight. But it's not as understandable as Wallace. And the supposedly the best English grammar or Greek grammar ever is Blas de Bruner Funk.
What's it again?
Blas de Bruner Funk. And it's still the leading advanced grammar, even though it was done in 1961, which is a long time ago, but nobody's been able to revise it yet. They've revised it in German. They're on the 10th edition in German, but it's not very usable. It assumes that you have an advanced knowledge of classical Greek and other languages to use it.
Wow.
And most people don't have a knowledge of classical Greek, because it will point out the differences between Koine and classical Greek. And that's basically what it does. So you have to have a wide understanding of classical Greek in order to use it well. So, but it's important to use an intermediate or advanced Greek grammar. So, very good. We'll just we'll start looking at phrasing on Philippians 1, 3 through 11 a little bit for the remainder of the time tonight. So follow the syllabus, do those the phrasing exercises, do 20 out of 31 that you're supposed to do. So do that. If you have any questions, you can bring them next time on the phrasing. But ultimately, we're going to phrase Philippians 1, 3 through 11. So take your New Testaments and turn to Philippians 1, 3 through 11. Philippians 1, 3 through 11. Okay, so I see people bringing their Greek Bibles. Very good. Or seeing their Greek Bible. Eucharisto to theomu, I thank my God. So what can we tell about Eucharisto? Thank my God. What do we have when we read I thank my God? Can that stand alone as a complete thought? I thank my God. Is that an independent clause?
Sure.
It is.
What's the main verb?
Eucharisto.
Yeah, Eucharisto. I thank. And in modern Greek, it's Eucharisto. It's about the only word I know in modern Greek. Kalimera, good day. Anyway, Eucharisto to theomu. So you would move Eucharisto, that clause, to the left-hand margin and double underline Eucharisto because it's the main verb. And one characteristic of Paul is he likes long sentences, especially in the book of Ephesians. There are several sentences that are, almost 10 verses, 12 verses, 13 verses long. So the end of verse 3 is not the end of the first sentence. You have to look at punctuation marks. So if we're following the punctuation marks, you see at the end of verse 7, antas, a participle has a period. So anyway, you have to be aware that some of the sentences are long. So I thank my God upon every remembrance of you. So what part of speech is epi in verse 3?
Preposition.
It's a preposition. So if it wasn't adverbial, what color, according to the scheme that I'm using, that we're using, what color would it be? Would it be red, blue, or green?
Green.
Okay, it would be green if it wasn't adverbial. If it is adverbial, then it's red. So upon every remembrance of you. Could be whenever I remember you, whenever I think of you. So it could be temporal.
Okay.
If it could be temporal, then it would be red. And the question would be when, and the Greek category would be time. Color in green or you color red. If you color red, you're saying an adverbial marker. Always on behalf. So what does always express? What kind of adverbial marker, or is it an adverbial? What kind of adverbial marker is pantata? Always. My computer,
It
well,
refers to time.
yeah, it could be temporal. Then if pantata is temporal, what color would it be?
Red.
Red. It's an adverb, so it would be red. And the question would be when, and the category would be time. Now, what does epipasse te menea humon, upon every remembrance of you, what verb is that modifying?
I think.
Eucharisto.
Eucharisto. What about pantata? What verb is pantata modifying?
Mania?
Menea is not a verb.
Right. Then it has to go to Eucharisto.
Yeah, it goes to Eucharisto. So epi, that clause modifies Eucharisto, and pantata, that is also modifying Eucharisto. So when do I thank my God? On every
Always.
remembrance
Yeah.
of you. When do I thank my God? Always in all my prayer on behalf of all of you. Then we have a metakaras, with joy.
Mm-hmm.
When you karas, what question grammatical category would go with that?
Why?
Why? No.
Manner?
Mm,
Yes, manner.
manner. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm looking at my computer screen and I don't see anybody's face except me. I just see circles with letters. Oh, now I see one person. Now they.
Mine keeps flipping back and forth. I think I've got a slight hitch in my connection.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's kind of choppy right now for me.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yeah, it went down, but then it came back.
Yeah, I'm just seeing DEYLATFM, but I do see Josh.
Oh, okay.
Well, it said recording has started, and before it said there was some problem with the connection or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Neil, the problem is the wind that we're having here today. It's affecting both yours and my connection.
Oh, okay. Can't do much about that. Okay, so always in all my prayer on behalf of all of you, what color would huper be in the verse 3, huper?
Mm-hmm.
What color would huper be?
Verse 3, verse 4, verse 3.
Red still?
No,
Green?
green, yes, because it's not adverbial. What about N in verse 4?
That'd be green.
Green, yes. Then we have kind of a periphrastic. So you have prayer plus a participle. Making prayer is praying. And how is he praying? Making prayer. How is he praying?
With joy.
With joy.
Yeah, with joy. So the metakaras is modifying poiumenas. At least that's one way to see it. And so, so the meta or metakaras you'd color red. What about the poiumenas?
Making.
Yeah, making prayer, or by making prayer, or by praying. So this is going to be a lot of fun for you, phrasing these verses. So this is going to be harder than the mounts example. And then there'll be exegetical decisions that'll have to be made. So in my phrasing, epipase te menea humon is modifying Eucharisto. Pantata and passe diese mu huper panton humon is modifying Eucharisto. Retain deexen poiumenas is modifying Eucharisto. The epite koinonia humon es ta evangelion is modifying Eucharisto. In the poithos, in verse 6, the poithos, auta tuta, is modifying Eucharisto. So Eucharisto is a pretty important verb in this passage because it's the main verb of most of the verses as we work our way through. So work on those phrasings. That's how you learn. The more we do, the better we learn it. And then one of the first main goals is to be able to phrase Philippians 1:3 through 11. And then we'll try to pick out the 5 most important verbs, participles, or infinitives in verses 1:3 through 11. So you might say Eucharisto would be one of the 5 most important verbs in the passage. And then we'll look at the most important uses of case in the passage. And we'll look at patterns in the text. How does Philippians 1:3 through 11 open, and how does it close? So if you compare the beginning, Eucharisto, with the ending, eis doxon kai epainon, it starts out, I thank my God, it starts out in prayer, and it ends to the glory and praise of God. It ends with prayer. So it begins with prayer and it ends with prayer, and in the middle is prayer. So it's a great passage on praying. So anyway, so we will come back next time, work on that, and you'll be taking the proficiency exam next week, and working on your phrasing from mounts and turning that in. So we'll be making good progress. So since I can see Josh, maybe he can end our time in prayer.
Okay.
As soon as you can see me, or do you want me to do it now?
Now.
Oh, you can see me now. Okay. All right. Let's do it. Father, thank you for this day, and we do thank you for your word. And we love it, and we want to know it better because it tells us more about you. And Father, we thank you for this opportunity to do this work and the blessing that it is to have it before us. And Father, I pray you bless our efforts in the coming weeks. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
week, guys.
Thank you.
See you.